Thanks for joining us today. I'm Nikki Schuler, the Program Director for eMentor. We're very excited to have you with us and equally excited to be hosting this webinar series to better serve you. If you haven't done so already, after the webinar is over, head over to our website, www.ementorprogram.org, to see our schedule and sign up for future webinars. Our next webinar will be on January 7th with Susan Scotts, a career transition coach at the Entrepreneur Source. She'll be joining us to discuss the basics of franchise ownership and help listeners determine if owning a franchise is right for them, family, and their future. I do encourage you to sign up now as the seats can fill up quickly. Since this may be the first webinar for some of you out there, feel free to move your cursor around to find your toolbar. It'll either be at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on what kind of device you're on. Using the Q&A tool in your toolbar, feel free to send in questions at any time. Laura and I will do our best to answer all of them as they come up. At this time, I'd like you to find the Raise Hand button and select Raise Your Hand. This serves as a simple radio check and lets me know that you can hear me. Great, thanks everyone. It looks like we have positive comms and we can proceed. And with that, I'd like to dive in and introduce our guest speaker, Laura Early. Laura earned her bachelor's degree from Lee University. Upon graduation, Laura put her degree to work as a project manager and event specialist for People for Caring and Learning. From there, she spent some time as a behavior therapist working with autistic children by collaborating with medical professional supervisors, family members, and developing and implementing behavior plans. Most recently, Laura co-founded and currently serves as the Deputy Director of Wise Advise and Assist Team, a thriving virtual assistant company that advises businesses on efficient and effective processes that can improve their functionality while fulfilling their needs in public relations, business strategy, bookkeeping, digital marketing, web design, and more. Wise exists to provide a one-stop shop for outsourcing where small business owners can get the support they need to help to scale. Wise has more than quadrupled in size in less than 3 years. In this capacity, in 2018 alone, Laura has interviewed over 400 veterans and military spouses as prospective clients and team members. As a proud Army spouse and advocate for the military community, Laura is joining us to offer her tips to help you succeed at your next interview. Laura, I'm so excited and thankful to have you with us this morning. I know our listeners will find the information you present today helpful for their own development, and I know it's going to help them win their next interview. And with that, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can't. We are going to do a quick poll before we get started. So I will let Nikki lead those. So if you want to go ahead with the polls, and we'll jump in to what's next. Can you guys see the polls okay? You can click on them. We'd love to hear just a little bit about you. If you're currently employed and actively looking for a new job, if you're unemployed looking for a job, or you're underemployed and looking, it will give us just a little bit about you to know how to tailor this conversation. And I want this to be a conversation. Please feel free to ask me questions in the Q&A or drop them in the chat, and I will try to get to them now or as we go along. But I would love to know just a little bit about you and what you're looking for in this webinar or what you're doing right now. So if everyone can go ahead and answer the poll, that would be awesome. Awesome. So we have a lot of people who are looking for a job, about 50%. We have some employed looking for new jobs. Hey, we got 50% military spouses on the line, which I love. I'm a military spouse, but welcome to all of our veterans, our veteran spouses, our retirees, and everyone else who's joining us. I hope this is applicable to where you are and what you're doing. So today we're going to talk about 5 steps to a successful interview. And those 5 steps are to plan, research, practice, execute, and follow up. It's all really important. So please feel free, like I said, to jump in and ask me questions as we go. But I'm gonna dive in to the first step, which is to plan. You have to plan to win your interview, and anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. You have to prepare. It's one of the most important things you'll go through. So part of that planning to win is getting your resume up to speed. And what that looks like is customizing your resume for each position. I see this a lot with hires, potential hires for Wise. We get a lot of resumes where I can tell that they that they haven't tailored it to our job, that this is just a blanket resume that they use for everything. Don't do that. Have a main resume, have a template for your resume, but customize it for each position. So how you do that is you reference skills listed in the job description. So if you're applying to be a digital marketer with us at Wise, you're going to want to reference aspects of digital marketing in your skills. So maybe you worked as a social media intern. Maybe you did social media for a nonprofit or something like that. Those are things that you're going to want to reference in your resume. Make sure that you're referencing specific points in the job description. They're going to be, is there anything showing on the skill? Okay. We're having a few technical difficulties. I'll let Nikki respond to you guys. Can you see the presentation okay? Can I get a hands up or a yes? Yes, cool, awesome. No, yes, no, yes. A lot of mixed. So I'll let Nikki kind of let you guys know what's going on. Awesome. So make sure that you reference skills in the job description. The job description is there for a reason. Speak to your unique qualifications. So everyone has unique things about them that are going to make them great for this job. Don't be afraid to talk about your qualifications. I always recommend actually having a friend look at your resume and give you some tips on what to put in, because your friends are going to, they know what you're good at. They're going to encourage you to write it. I have a really hard time talking about myself. And so showing your resume to your friends is going to help pull out some of those unique qualifications. Give them what they are looking for. So if the hiring manager asks for a cover letter, make sure you provide a cover letter. If they ask for a one-page resume, provide a one-page resume. Don't provide a 7-page resume. So make sure that you are giving them what they've asked for, and that they are that you're looking at the job description that they provide. Use metrics in your resume. This is one of the most important things I talk about with people when I'm talking about resumes. Make sure that you say, if you've led a team, how many people were on that team, that you've led a team of 5 or more, that you've led a team of 10 or more. If you worked in social media in the past, make sure you tell them that you raised the engagement on the page that you were working on by X%. Use those metrics. That's going to show them and prove to them your capabilities, and put numbers behind what you're able to do. So make sure that you're using metrics, you're using numbers. Send a custom cover letter. Absolutely, like I said before, that is your way of telling the company, the hiring manager, why you're interested in that position and why you're the best fit. So that custom cover letter gives a personal touch to your resume and starts to begin that connection between you and the hiring manager. So make sure that you're customizing all of these things. This is one of my favorite points to hit on. Use your volunteer experience well. Treat volunteerism like a job. So many of us as military spouses have gaps in our resume, but we didn't just sit on our couch and do nothing for those 3 years. Typically, we've volunteered, we've had a family, we've done a few different things. So make sure that you are putting that volunteer experience up there with your jobs. So for me, one of the reasons I was able to get one of my second jobs after I became a military spouse was because that I had volunteered with a spouses club organization, and I had sat on a board, and I was able to talk about that experience and how I led a team, I planned events, I used strategy, I managed a budget. A lot of people don't think about that. They're on the PTA for their kids' school, and they don't think about how they have to manage a budget. They have to arrange things with other people. They have to strategize. They create events. They do fundraisers. All of those things are relatable skills to acquiring a job. So make sure that you're putting your volunteer experience on there. You're explaining it well. You're treating it like a job. If you put your description of your volunteerism like you had a typical position, people are going to look at that and respect that really well. And then the last one is mitigate gaps in your employment history. Volunteerism is one way to do that. So if you're job seeking right now, job seeking is super important, but while you're job seeking, maybe try to get a certification to increase your appeal to an employer. Volunteer so that you can put things in those gaps, and make sure that you always have a reason for that gap. So many of us, like I said before, typically do things in our gaps, so make sure that you're explaining those to employers. Okay, researching to win. This is, again, so important. Make sure that you research the company that you are applying to or that you are interviewing with. Make sure you know their mission, their vision, their core values, their purpose, what they do. It's really important. Don't ever go into an interview knowing nothing about the company. You're not going to get the job, I guarantee you. So make sure that you research the company and make sure that your values as a person and your mission for your life aligns with the company that you're applying to. I know it's really easy as military spouses and as veteran spouses, and sometimes even as veterans, as you're looking for that first job, it's really easy just to want to take whatever job comes your way. I know that feeling. I've been there before, but make sure that you're researching the company and that aligns with your core values. You are not going to be happy at a company that you don't align with. Also, make sure that you look up the employees on LinkedIn, look at the company's website, look for the person that's going to interview you. So if you're interviewing with the head of HR or you're interviewing with the head of the tech department, look them up, know something about them, learn a little bit about them, and make sure that you can speak to that and you know what to expect. I do this not only to be able to answer your questions, but also so that you're prepared in an interview. It's going to make you feel far more comfortable if you know that you're going to interview with Laura and you know that Laura went to Lee University, Laura looks like this, she has this experience. It's going to make you more comfortable. And it's also going to give you knowledge to be able to walk into that interview with. So look them up, see what kind of people work there. Are they the type of people that you would want to work alongside, but also learn about them so that you can be prepared for the interview. So the position, look up the position. Does anyone currently hold it? Are you going to be the first one to hold this position? Did they hire for multiple people in this role? Did they only hire for one? What do they do? Look up, like you said, looking up employees on LinkedIn. If you look up someone on LinkedIn who has this position, what is their description of what they do say? What can you expect to do in this position? So look it up, gain knowledge on key points. Again, this is going to help prepare you for the interview. And then I always suggest before you walk into any interview to Google pay. Look at pay for that position, for the area that you're in, so that you can go in, again, with a competitive offer. You can know how to answer the question because they will ask you, well, how much are you looking for in this role? And you need to be able to give an answer to that based on your experience, based on the pay of the organization. So look it up and be prepared to answer that question as well. Practicing to win. Practice, practice, practice. I know we've heard this a lot as kids in our lives, but it's really important, again, when you're going into an interview. How do you prepare for an interview? You prepare by practicing. So what do you need to know? You need to know your resume. Read your own resume, know it back and forth, know those metrics that we talked about, know your experience and how it applies to the job opening. If you've worked in events before and you're applying to be an event planner, you have the experience. You have to know how that relates to what they do. Again, know the mission goals or the vision of the company, know a lot about them so that you can be prepared to answer questions on that. And then prepare your answers to common interview questions. This is so important. Again, this is going to help you with that confidence. It's going to help you be comfortable in the interview. It's going to help you know what kind of answers you're looking for. So typical questions that you're going to get asked, know your strengths and weaknesses. Not only know what they are, but have examples of them. Have an example of what your leadership capability looks like at X company. Know how you have this weakness, but how you combat that. What do you do to learn from others or to improve in that area? Have examples ready of the skills that you have and how they relate to the position that you're interviewing. It's all fine and well to say, I'm really good at Excel. Awesome, great, you're good at Excel. What's something that proves that? Talk about how you used Excel to create a budget and how it increased, increased predictability for a project or increased the outcome of something. Those are kind of examples that you want. Is there a particular website where you can research typical pay skills? There's not one specific website that I would recommend because it's different depending on what job you're applying to, Timothy. So if you're applying to a virtual position, you're obviously the pay of where you are doesn't necessarily affect that. You want to look at generalizations for the position, and then it's all based on your experience as well. So if you have 5 years of experience in something versus 1 year of experience in something, you're going to be able to ask for a different pay rate. So if you Google it, you will find tons of information, but I don't know one specific website. The other thing is to have examples or a story of when things went your way and when something did not go your way. This is really important because this shows that you can face challenges, that you learn from your mistakes, and that you're eager to do the best job possible. So make sure that you have examples of things. So you want to tell a great story of when you started on a project and how you performed and then went really well and it increased the bottom line for a company. Those stories are always awesome. But you also want to have one where maybe you didn't get a promotion that you wanted. Maybe you didn't, your project didn't perform. Maybe you made a mistake and it cost the company money, or there was a problem with it, or maybe a situation where you didn't work well with a team member. Have some of those ready, but be prepared with the latter ones, the weaker ones, to talk about how you learned from that situation, how you grew, what you did to improve, how you would approach that situation in the future, because that shows your adaptability and your growth. So those are all really important things to prepare for. So make sure, again, that you know your resume better than the interviewer, that you know about the company, that you know about your experience, and that you're prepared to talk about each of those things. I will hit on this one at the end, Erin, about being a military spouse. That is a great question. So again, how to continue to be prepared. Have questions ready. I cannot stand when someone comes into an interview with me and they're like, I don't have any questions. You have no questions. No questions about the job, no questions about the company, no questions about how we started or why we do things. So this is why that research component is really important. I recommend having 3 questions in mind to ask the interviewer. That can be about the company, about the culture. It can be about your career path within the organization. Is there room to promote? Room to grow? It could be about the position. What does a typical day look like in this position, etc. There are endless amounts of questions that you can ask. And I will say, even if you know the answer, go ahead and ask it and see what they say and see if it aligns with what you've researched. So prepare questions and have them ready to answer. And like I said before, be prepared to talk about tough topics. People are going to ask you about your negative qualities or experience. They're going to ask you about your weaknesses. So be prepared to show them how you've grown, explain what you've learned, and describe what you would do differently. Those are key ways to get around some of those hard conversations. Do a practice interview. Do a practice interview, do a practice interview. Get with your friends, get with someone who maybe is employed in that field. Talk with them, let them interview you like it's a real interview. This will increase your confidence. This will help you think through your answers. It will also give that person the ability to give you feedback and say, hey, that answer is really long, or you've given that same answer 5 times because you want to differentiate your answers. You don't want to give the same answer over and over and over and over and over again. So practicing with someone will give you that. It also creates muscle memory. You get more comfortable. You understand. So when I ask you what was a time where things didn't go as you wanted, and what did you learn from that situation, you're not going to be like, oh my goodness, I don't have an answer to this question. You're going to be ready to answer it because you practiced. Can you have too many questions? I think this is something, Tammy, where you have to look at and observe the body language and the attitude of the person that you're interviewing with. If you can tell that they're getting a little fatigued from your questions, probably stop asking them. I would keep it probably to 3 to 5 because you want to show that you have interest in their company, interest in the role, and that you're curious and want to know more. But you also want to show that you've researched and have an understanding of what they do. So it's kind of a delicate balance, and you can typically tell from the body language of the person that you're interviewing with if they're like done with you, if they're done with the questions, if they're over it, if it's too many. Or also pay attention to the time. If you've been in an interview for 30 minutes and it's time for you to ask questions, you probably have more time to ask questions than if you've been in there for an hour and then they're going to ask questions. So just pay attention to your surroundings, and that will help you guide in that question. So executing the interview. This is, again, really critical point to you getting the position. Your first impression says a lot about you to the hiring managers and to the interviewers. So make sure you dress for success. This goes for all types of interview, phone, virtual, in-person. Dress business professional. This is something that I think has really gone down lately in the culture that we live in. I believe you want to be the most dressed up person in the room. You do not want to be more casual than the person interviewing you. And so the best way to do that is to dress business professional. If you're questioning if what you're wearing isn't appropriate or is appropriate, it's probably not. If you have that, oh, I don't know if this is right, go with your gut, change. You want to be comfortable, so make sure that you're comfortable in what you're in. Make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror, that you don't have rips, holes, all those types of things. But dress business professional, it's going to get you in the door. It's going to get you respect from the beginning. So that's always my advice. Be the most dressed up person in the room. For virtual interviews, make sure that you have a clean, clear, professional background. Don't do the interview where I can see your bed in the background. I don't want to see your stairs. I don't want to see your couch. Make sure that you have a clean, professional background, that there's no background noise for virtual interviews. Make sure that you turn your phone off or put it on mute. Make sure that your dog, kids, husband, wife, whoever is in the house knows that you're in an interview, and go to a separate space. Make sure that you turn off the notifications on your computer. All of those things show that you've prepared and that you're taking this interview seriously. Virtual interviews are on the rise. We do all virtual interviews for my company, but we treat them and take them as seriously as we would an in-person interview. So make sure that you're doing that as well. From the body language. Okay, yep, we can hit that one at the end. That's a great one too. Phone as well. Make sure that, again, no background noise, that you have a good connection. And then with the virtual, I skipped this one, but it's really important. Check your tech before the interview. Make sure that your camera works. Make sure that your microphone works. Make sure that your computer works. Make sure that you have a charger for your computer so it's not going to die in the middle of your interview. All of those things are really important to make sure that you execute the interview well. Again, pay attention, like I said before, to the body language and the reactions. Write down what the hiring manager tells you. So if they tell you that they're going to follow up with you in 7 days, or that you need to send them X type of example or portfolio, make sure that you're tracking what they're telling you. Ask those questions. Some silence is okay. It's okay to take a moment to think of your answers. I think, again, generationally, we get nervous with silence. We think silence is bad. It's okay to take a minute to answer a question. Don't take 10 minutes, but it's okay to say, hey, can I just have a moment to think about this? Or just let the silence happen for a minute to think about your answers. Let me see about this one. Is it okay to take notes during an interview? I think it's okay to take notes in the interview. I would say, especially if you're virtual, I would tell the interviewer that you are taking notes so they don't think you're looking away from the camera and writing away. And you can always ask. That's the thing. It's a person on the other side of this interview. They're a human being too. So you can say, hey, is it okay if I take some notes while we're talking? Most of the time, they're going to say yes, because most of the time they're writing notes as well. So, yes, it's okay to ask them to ask a question again. You can say, you can just say, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again? Or, yeah, I just want to clarify. This is another, you make sure that you understand what they're asking you. Tammy, this is a great question. It's okay to say, hey, can you clarify? Or what I hear you saying, or what I think you're asking is X. Is that what you're asking? And then they can say, yes, that's what I'm asking, or no, that's what I'm asking. It's okay to clarify. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of what they're asking. I've been through several interviews, and from the body language it demonstrated at times that they were done with the interview, or it was obvious that it was not going to be selected for the position. What would you do at that point? How can you turn the interview for the better? I would ask questions. That's when I would ask a question. I would ask them, what does your ideal candidate look like for this position? And they will tell you, and then you can respond with how you are that ideal person. I would ask them a question around what they're looking for, or maybe tell them an engaging story, or I would just ask them what they're looking for, or what does a great job look like in this position. I think all of those things could help turn that around for you. Confidence is key. Confidence is key. Confidence is key. They can see your body language. They can read you. So that's why that practicing is so important, and go in with confidence. Oops, sorry guys, that's my timer going off to know that we're almost out of time, and I gotta let you guys ask some questions here in a second. Don't let a no crush you. No gets you closer to a yes. It takes the average person around 6 months to a year to get a position. So don't let those no's kill you. Just look at that no as it's one step closer to a yes. You're almost there. You're going to make it. Follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Your follow-up can close the deal. Send the appropriate follow-up. So if you interviewed with someone, I would follow up with an email thanking them for the interview, telling them that you appreciate the opportunity, that you look forward to hearing from them. Phone calls. If they tell you that you are going to hear from them in 7 days and in 9 days you haven't heard from them, go ahead and shoot them an email or give them a phone call and follow up them. Personal letters, I think emails are okay. If you want to send a personal letter, you can. Some people recommend having a letter written and dropping it at the mail at the office building before you leave. That's really up to you, but I think emails are appropriate. Yes, it is absolutely okay to ask for a business card or ask who to contact. I would do that. I would ask in the interview at the end, thank you so much for your time. If I have any questions or I want to know where in the process I am, who should I follow up with? And if they say them, follow up with them. But if they say the HR manager, follow up with the HR manager. Follow what they tell you. And that's who to follow up with. Make sure that you follow up with who they tell you to. I would certainly write an email thanking the interviewer for their time. I always appreciate that when people do that. Time between follow-up, let them guide you. If they say that you're going to hear back from them by X time, don't follow up with them 5 times before X date. Wait till X date and then follow up with them. That's a great way, again, to really annoy an HR manager is if they tell you you're going to hear from them on Friday and then on Wednesday and Thursday you're sending emails. Wait for the timeline that they give you and follow up there. It'll really help you. And again, make sure that you say thank you for your time, that you're using your manners, you're following up them, letting them know that you appreciate the opportunity. Okay, so we're going to have some time for questions. Pop them in the chat. We would love to answer them for you. Nikki might jump in and answer some as well because she's got some experience. So let me answer this one. How do you approach the topic of being a military spouse during an interview? I've been in specific interviews stating that I could potentially ask to be remote at some point because of the military. The response I got was, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For the job I'm currently in, how do you recommend bringing it up and how do you press it if you get a vague response? So I'm going to actually turn this on so I can see you. I would say it depends on the company you're interviewing for. So I would look to see if the company that you're interviewing for is military friendly. And if they are, it sounds like this company that you're with is military friendly, then it's okay to bring it up. And I would just kind of let them know that you're planning for the future. If they're skirting around the topic, that would make me a little nervous as well around, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I would just kind of look like, what do you think this transition looks like to a virtual position? How can we start preparing now for that transition? Because the transition from in-person to virtual is a big one. So I would kind of phrase it to the employer like you want to help them get prepared for this transition. And then as far as in an interview, it is illegal for them to ask you about it, about if you're a military spouse or not. You don't have to answer that question. So that's really up to you. And if you feel the company's military friendly or if it's going to harm you or hurt you, I wouldn't necessarily say if they're asking you about your gaps in your resume that you're a military spouse. I would say, again, millennials typically have jobs for about 2 to 3 years and then leave and move on to another job, which is about the same time frame as an active duty spouse. So I would talk about that, how you really like to dive into the positions that you're in, give time to it, and that you would be dedicated to the company. So that one's a little bit depends on the company that you're interviewing with, and I would say the research is really important there. What do you think, Nikki? What have you heard? And what is your opinion? Obviously, with my company, we love military spouses, so you can tell us you're a military spouse, and it's great.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And Tamara, you sent a question, can this be saved and brought up for reference listening to this again? Yes, this is a recorded webinar. We will send a recorded version of this right to your email. And then a secondary question you had was, do you do a resume webinar? We did hold one in October, and it is recorded. If you are not a member of the eMentor program, you should join so that you can view the recorded version of that webinar. We record all of our webinars and have them on file for all of our users. So feel free to join so you can see that one.
And there's a ton of resume resources out there. If you are an active duty spouse, check out your local installations, your community. They offer free resume workshops. If I don't get the job, it's a company that could have other opportunities I'm interested in, is a follow-up email saying thanks and that I would love to be considered for other. Yeah, absolutely. Please do that. If you would say, you can even say that in an interview. I saw that you're interviewing for X position and Y position. I would love to be considered for both. That is completely appropriate. Absolutely. Follow up with them. And again, tell them why you should be considered for that other position. So absolutely do that. What if they ask you illegal questions? I would just say, I'm not comfortable asking that question. It doesn't relate to my skill and how I would be a good fit for this position, and move on. They know they can't ask you that. They're probably trying to see if you will answer the question anyway. So definitely you can say, I'm not comfortable answering that question. It doesn't really affect my ability to do this job well. And then if you're not interviewing with the hiring manager, it's okay to mention to the hiring manager, hey, they asked me these questions and I really didn't think that was fair to my evaluation for the position. That's totally comfortable. On networking and information interviews.
Hi, Tammy. Yeah, we do have that plan. We have one on networking planned, hopefully for this summer. As far as information interviews, no, we don't have anything scheduled on that. If you want to email me at schuler@ementorprogram.org, send me some of your questions that you may have, and maybe I can get some more information on information interviews that you're looking for. Or feel free to ask now if you can.
Do you guys have any other questions or want clarity on a certain part? I know we went through this super, super fast trying to give you all the information. Again, I think the most important thing you can do when you're in the job seeking role and interviewing is to get prepared and to practice. I think a lot of times people don't put effort into practicing their interviews and their skills. How do you handle questions about previous salary, especially when your previous salary was likely lower? You can give them a range, that's fine. They may ask what you did before. Again, you don't have to tell them what you made before. You can give them a range if you're looking for a range in this position. Or you can say, that was 3 years ago. I made this, but I've done X, Y, and Z to improve my skills. I'm certified in this. I have experience in this, and that's why I think I qualify for a higher rate. But you don't have to actually tell them what you got paid before. You can give them a range. Does that answer your question? Is it bad to end an interview early if you don't feel like you're a fit? No. I would appreciate that very much if someone told me, after speaking with you today, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. But after, talking with you and learning more about the company, I don't think I'm going to be a right fit for this position. I think that's great. Absolutely. I would rather someone tell me that they don't think they're going to be a good fit and end it early and move on than waste my time for an hour and then come back 5 minutes later in an email and say, no, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. Do I recommend any books? I recommend lots of books on specifically interviewing. I don't know if there's any specifically on interviews. I would say one that I always recommend is Patrick Lencioni's The Ideal Team Player. I think that's a really great one. It's a quick read. It's kind of based like a fable, so it's an easy read. And it's a great one to kind of learn more about yourself and how you work with others and how you perform in a team role. I think that's a great one because I think a lot of questions these days in interviews, at least for us, are around team and culture and how you work with others. And so knowing yourself, I would say if you haven't done a personality type assessment, do one of those. That's a great way to learn about yourself. The more self-awareness you can have going into an interview, the better you're going to do because then you're able to, again, really identify your strengths and weaknesses and talk about how to combat them and how you learn from them and what you do better. Because again, that question is pretty aged. And so people aren't typically, if it's like strengths, you're like, I'm a great communicator. I'm a team player. Like I love when people give me more specific strengths in an interview. Like I'm really good at analyzing situations and coming up with a solution. Like that's way better than I'm a good communicator. So I think anything you can do to learn yourself better will help you in an interview. And then again, practicing with a friend, and practicing with a friend who's going to be honest with you, not your friend that will never critique you and never tell you anything wrong. Practice with someone who's going to be honest, who's going to tell you, hey, Laura, you talk too much with your hands. Put your hands down in your interview. Hey, you use this example about when you worked at PCL and planned an event 5 times. Like, you need to come up with another story. Hey, you said this same thing over, or that was a really great point, or explain this further. You need a friend who's going to be honest with you and tell you those things. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I would go with where you see yourself in your career. So I don't necessarily think you have to talk to that position. So maybe you're interviewing for a junior position, and you could say, in 5 years, I see myself moving into a management role and working with a team, or I see myself becoming a subject matter expert in X. So it doesn't have to be like, I see myself at this company in 5 years. It could be where you see yourself, just in general, professionally. We should all know where we want to go professionally. Do you want to grow into being a marketing director? Do you want to be a project manager? Are you planning to get your PMP? Those types of things. So that's how I would answer that question. Where do you want to go professionally? Do you want to become a leader in an organization? Do you want to grow in a position? Specifically, if you're applying to like a junior position at a company, I would definitely talk about how you want to grow and improve and grow into that leadership role or that next role above where you're going.
Yeah, Tammy, the point of that question is just to determine if you've been thinking about your future, if you have goals already in mind. It's not necessarily your answer. It's just to see if you've been planning and thinking ahead.
That's the biggest thing. I will say, as an interviewer, I want to know, are you a culture fit for my company? Do you align with our mission, vision, and core values? Do you know what we do? Because if you come into an interview with me and you don't know what we do, you're probably not going to get a job. But make sure that I want to know that you are a lifelong learner, that you have a desire to grow, that you have goals for yourself professionally. Like, your goal is not just to get this job and sit in it for 10 years. We want to see where you want to go and move. Is there truth to companies being required to interview a set number of people for a posted job? Yes, it is true. So this typically happens with like government jobs or state positions. Like for teachers, for example, they do have to interview a certain number of candidates. So even if they have an internal candidate that they want to hire, they still have to interview because they have to prove to their organization that they've sought out the best fit for the position. So that is true. And I think, again, that goes back to the question earlier. How can you redirect the conversation and get them engaged in you? But unfortunately, it is true that sometimes people have to interview to prove that they've looked when they already have a candidate in mind. Can you ever beat the internal candidate? Absolutely. I've had people beat internal candidates for positions before with me. It's about proving that you're the best fit for the role. If you have a great personality, if you relate to their culture well, if you know the company well, if you have a lot of skill in that area and you can show your potential and growth, you can absolutely beat out an internal candidate for a position. I think the biggest thing is the fear that comes with that. That's why that confidence piece is really important, because obviously an internal candidate is going to be more confident in an interview with people they already know as opposed to you. So showing that confidence, showing your skill, all of that is going to help you to be able to beat an internal hire. What if you are mid-career and really aren't interested in growth so much? How do you answer the question? I think you should always be interested in self-growth. So I think, showing that you want to learn more and you want to become a better and more skilled at the position that you're doing. So maybe you are going to be an analyst or something. You need to show that you're going to research and learn new skills within that position. There's always opportunity to grow. Grow doesn't always mean I'm going to get promoted. Growth means I'm going to learn and be better at what I'm doing. So make sure that you kind of know that. And if you know the position well, you should know where there's areas where you can improve. All of us have weaknesses. All of us have things that we're not good at. So there's always room for improvement. And so that's what I would talk about. I would talk about how you want to become the expert at whatever it is that you're doing, and that you're going to do that by going to conferences, by coming to webinars, by reading books, by learning. The question really is about, they want to know that you are a learner, that you desire to get better, that you're always improving. It's not to show that you want to be a CEO in 5 years. It's, I want to know that you have initiative and drive and a desire to be the best at what you do.
Wow, thank you so much, Laura. I think that wraps up the last minute questions. And thank you so much to everybody that participated in that second poll. That just helps us understand if the information that we're providing you is helpful for your development and for you to be able to move forward effectively with your own goals. So Laura is a mentor for us in our military and veteran entrepreneur community, or veteran and military spouse community. So feel free to reach out to her that way. And if you're interested in connecting with a mentor to work on interviews or work on your resume, depending on where you are in your job cycle, I would recommend that you join eMentor so that you can team up with somebody that can help you one-on-one with those personal, professional, and business-related goals. We have a fantastic program and a ton of resources that are available to you so that you can improve in those areas that you've determined are weaknesses for you. Feel free to reach out to us at admin@ementorprogram.org. Follow us on all of our handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to find all of our recorded events. And to sign up for future events, go to our homepage, www.ementorprogram.org, and keep an eye on your inbox for the recorded version of this. It should be out within 5 days. And we wish you, and if there's, it looks like we have one more question that popped up. Okay, you're welcome, Tammy. I'm glad that you asked. Thanks for interacting with us. And thank you so much to everyone that attended today. We hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday season. Laura, thank you so much for spending the last 42 minutes with us. We're thankful for you and all the work that you're doing for us. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. It was so great to be here, and I will just echo what Nikki said again. Make sure you connect with eMentor. They have amazing, amazing mentors on there, and I'm not just saying that because I am one, but I've also had a mentor through eMentor before, and they're just incredible. So if you're just looking for someone to look over your resume, I did that for someone last month. I checked their resume. I asked them a few questions. Make sure that you tap into this amazing resource. There's so many resources out there for the military community to use, and it's really unfortunate and sad to me when people don't use them. So make sure you're tapping into eMentor and get connected. It's really going to help you move forward in your job search and help you win the interview.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, everyone. Have a great holiday season, and we hope to see you at the next event. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.